Hi, my name's Anthony Turner, and today my guest is one of my co-directors at the Small Business Institute, Bruce Hall. Bruce has been one of the co-writers also of a lot of our training materials. He's been a mentor for a number of years and also a deliverer of workshops, both for the Institute but also for government and other people as well. Bruce, welcome and thanks for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Bruce, what I thought we might talk about today is one of the biggest issues that I know you and I both see and that is people don't really understand how marketing has changed and also who are their customers and what do their customers really want from them. They get caught up in the selling the old widget or the idea or the service or whatever it is without really considering the customer. So maybe we can start with how has marketing really changed over the recent period of time?
Yeah, look, marketing has changed enormously in the last few years. Probably the last 10 years has been some absolutely dramatic changes driven by the web. Yeah. And the main change is today the customer's in control. Yes. The customer's in control. And if you're not talking about what's important to the customer, they're not going to listen to you. Yeah. The customer's now educated, they're informed, they've got choice, unbelievable choice, and yet most of the marketing that we see out there today is still the old world. It's the old push marketing. It's the stuff I learned when I had black hair in the 1970s. Okay. So So
what do you mean by push marketing?
Push marketing is the old selling model. Okay. It's the old selling model. Push marketing is about just advertising, trying to make a lot of noise to get attention, get the customer in and then sell to them. Okay. Yep. The problem is today, who likes being sold to? The customer doesn't want to be sold to anymore. Yeah. They want to be served. Yeah. They want to be served, and they want to know that you actually understand them. Okay.
So what would you say? How is it? I mean, obviously it's being served, but how would you define that? So we had push marketing, and so what's it now?
It's now pull marketing. It's about attracting clients to you. Okay. And most important, it's about understanding what's important to the client, to the customer, and talking to them in terms of what's important to them. Okay. And yet most of the marketing that we see out there today, it's all about me. It's about my business. We've been established 25 years. We've got a great reputation. We're reliable. We've got all these wonderful products, features.
And as a customer, I'm going, who cares?
Yeah, you're a customer, so what? Yeah. So what? Okay. It just doesn't matter.
So I guess if we're thinking about it's about the customer, how do I change it? What have I got to know?
Okay. Yeah. The first step is you need to understand your customer. Okay. First of all, the first thing is who are your customers or your ideal customer groups. Most businesses will have one or two, maybe three customer groups that they serve. Yeah. So it's about saying, well, who are these customer groups and thinking about them? What do these groups have in common? Yeah. It can be the demographic information. It can be male or female. It can be a certain lifestyle stage. It can be a belief. They have certain beliefs, certain attitudes, might be location based. Yep. But whatever it is, start with that. Who are your ideal customers and who are your ideal customer groups?
Okay. So I remember doing some work with it was actually a neighbourhood house. Yes. Okay. And where we identified there was actually 5 different customer groups. So they had people in the older age group who were coming for leisure type services. We had the mums who were dropping kids off for childcare. There was the casual user. There was the formal education aspects of it, and then the other one, which was interesting, was that they identified that the actual kids who participated in after school programs and holiday programs was another customer group. So that's the sort of thing that we're talking about, isn't it?
That's what I'm talking about. And when you think about it, each of those customer groups have very different needs. And the way you communicate to them has to be tailored to each of those customer groups, because the older people are not interested in being communicated to the same way, say the young parents who've got young kids. They've got different needs, different issues, different challenges. So it's really about sort of, first of all, identifying those customer groups. Yeah. The next step is then to think about, well, what is important to those customer groups? What needs do they have? What are their needs for a start? You know, what are the needs? But then think more broadly about them in terms of what's their life like. You know, what's their life like? What challenges do they face? You know, what sort of problems do they encounter? What keeps them awake at night? You know, what causes them stress, worry, frustration? Think as broadly as you can about the customer groups. Try and get inside their world. Really experience their world.
Okay. So I guess if you're doing that, if I'm a business owner, for example, and I'm doing that, I'm more likely to find these sorts of problems that they have, and therefore the potential solutions that I can offer.
Exactly. If you think about the customer's world and their issues and their problems, it opens up different ways you can communicate with them and different problems that you can solve. You can often find when you really get to know your customers, there's not one problem you can solve. There's 2, 3, 4 ways you can actually help your clients because you really understand what's important to them.
And I guess it make you as a business stand out a bit differently because not many others are doing this, are they?
No, very few. We know when we, for example, review websites, 90% of them just talk about their product or service. They don't talk about what's important to the customer. And unless you're talking about what's important to the customer, you're not going to engage the customer.
So let's say we've got our business, we've got our widget or service or whatever it is, and we've actually identified who our customers are. One of the other things I know that we talk about in the workshops that we run is that, you know, even within that group, not all of those people are going to be your actual customers, are they?
No.
You know, there's sort of the three groups, what we call our 20-60-20.
We are.
Yeah. So maybe you'd like to explain the 20-60-20.
Yeah, look, there's the 20-60-20 rule is basically says that, look, 20% of the people will understand and love what you do and value what you do. 60% couldn't care less. They're totally indifferent. And 20% will never be your customers, or if they are, they're going to be a nightmare to deal with. And we've all had those sort of all those sort of clients. The mistake a lot of businesses make is trying to target everybody. Instead of just saying, let's target our ideal customer groups, serve them really well, they then become walking billboards, and then some of the indifferent 60% will come across as clients. And then you'll have more business than you can possibly handle anyway.
And that would help too, wouldn't it, in terms of focusing where you put your energy in terms of marketing effort?
Oh, it does.
You know, so you can choose the right sort of mediums, that, you know, advertising, whatever it may be. Because
you really say, well, these are my ideal customer groups. Where do they go to find information? How do I best communicate to them? And instead of trying to be on 10 social media platforms, you might choose 2. And you'll have certain sort of information on your website targeting those customer groups specifically.
Okay. So once you've identified your customer groups, how do I work out where to connect with those people? Is there a tool that you can use to do that?
Yes, there is. However, I would say even before that step, before you start thinking about tactics to get in touch with your clients, there's one step that most businesses don't do, and that is go out and confirm your assumptions by talking to your ideal customer groups. Because very often we can make assumptions about the customer, their world, their challenges, their needs, and we can miss critical elements, things that are really important to them. And there might be things that we think are really important they don't care about. And we can waste our time focusing on them. And that is one step that I've seen and you've seen in the work we do that business owners don't do. They make assumptions, but they don't go out and talk to their clients. And even people who've been in business a long time, when they do that, through my experience, they find out things they didn't know their customers wanted. So that really is a critical is a critical step in the process.
What's some of the easy ways that they can do that? Business owners can do that.
Business owners can do that. You can just do that one-on-one if you want to do it. You can ring up. You can have a set of prepared questions for a start. You know, so that you know the sort of things you're going to be talking about. You can ring up a client or potential and say, look, have you got time for a coffee? I'd like to have a chat with you. Alternatively, you can get groups of your clients in or potential customers who fit your profile, get them in, give them a drink, something to eat, have a bit of fun, have a bit of a chat, ask them the questions. They're called focus groups,
Yeah.
a fancy word, but it's really just about communicating with your clients
Yeah.
or your potential customer groups. But it is something that's really, really important to do,
Sure.
because otherwise you can go off on a tangent and you can miss vital opportunities.
Yeah. What about asking questions like that on social media and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Social media, great way. Social media to get out and ask questions of people in different customer category groups. Facebook, for example, you can be very specific about the sort of audience you're targeting. It's low cost. You can find out some really great information that way.
Okay. Yeah, cool. All right, so I've got my product, I've
Yep.
got my service, my idea. I've got an idea now of who my ideal customer
Yep.
is. I've done some research. What's next?
The next thing is really still about research, and it is about understanding the emotions that your customers experience. Understanding, when they have these challenges or these needs or these problems, what are the emotions they experience?
Yep.
And as we know, the reason for that, research tells us all the time that customers buy based on emotion and then later justify a purchase with logic.
Yep.
And if you're not communicating and you're not connecting emotionally and you're not showing your customer you understand the emotions that they're feeling, they're not going to connect with you. They're not going to buy with you.
Okay.
So it's really important to connect, find out the emotions and then connect emotionally in your marketing.
Okay. And then when you say connecting with that, this thing comes into what, the language and the visuals that you use and everything?
Yes,
All this,
visuals.
is it?
For example, on the web, visuals are critically important. The role of people only read 28% of what's on the web. So images play a critical role, and the image should reinforce the sort of message you're trying to impart on the page and connect emotionally with your audience. Then the language you use, you really need to be showing your customer that you understand their world, you understand the challenges they're facing, the problems that they're experiencing. And then you paint a compelling picture of the alternative, of how it looks, what it's like after they engage with your business. Then you talk about what you do.
Okay.
Whereas most businesses do it the other way around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I understand. So for the benefit of the people that are watching or listening to this, is there a process that you actually use in actually crafting how you word things?
Yes, there is. There's a really simple process which we teach in our courses, so come along to the courses. A really simple process we teach where it starts, what are your customers' needs? What are their problems? What are their worries? What are their frustrations? When they have that need or have that problem, what are the emotions that they feel? Do they feel stressed, worried, anxious, overwhelmed, bewildered? Then, how do you change their world? How does their world change and improve by dealing with your business or buying your product? And how are they going to feel when that happens? Then the next step in the process is, then you explain how you achieve that. That's your product or service. And the last bit is you always tell them what to do next.
Yeah, fundamentally, that's the thing that I often see is missing, isn't it? On websites and in advertising and everything else. It's like we create this great story, we build up the empathy, we show that we understand, and all of a sudden, and then we forget to tell them where to go or what to do. It's that action step.
It is.
If the people are being led down a pathway, they want to know how to get off the pathway or to get the service or benefit that they want.
They do.
And yet many people fail to ask for the order in inverted commas.
It is. It's really about just saying to the customer, well, this is the next step you need to take. And it's really simple. But that process that we teach, that works. That's not just for the web. That works in your newspaper advertising, it works in your promotional material, and critically, it works face to face. When you meet a client, you don't jump in and start to sell to them. You understand their world, you empathise with them, you show them that you understand it, and they feel, at last, someone who understands me, someone who gets me. And then you start to talk about the picture. And it just works. It is simple, it works, but so few businesses do it.
Yeah, sure. One of the other things that we often see, Bruce, and you would know, is that people tend to mix up what their organisation stands for in terms of how they visually portray their business compared to the messages that they talk about.
It is.
Okay, which really is about branding and image and all that sort of stuff. One of the things that I know that you speak a lot about is developing a customer-focused brand.
Yes.
Can you maybe explain what that is and how people might go about that?
Yeah, the customer-focused brand, that is about really looking at your business through your customer's eyes. Really looking at your business through your customer's eyes. But the starting point is really, what is the purpose of your business? What is the purpose? It's like the hairdresser. The hairdresser's purpose isn't to cut hair. The hairdresser's real purpose is to help their customers feel good about themselves. They're in the self-esteem business. So really, what is the purpose of your business? And that, around your purpose of your business, you can then build your brand. You can then build a brand. But too many businesses, their purpose, the worst purpose you can have is to make money. Because that is the wrong purpose. Making money is an outcome of what you do. And we often see large corporates and large successful businesses that start to flounder and fail because their purpose becomes creating shareholder wealth. And that is the wrong purpose. The purpose is always about how do you change or improve your customer's world. And that is about looking at everything you do in your business through your customer's eyes.
So you build up your brand and everything else, you get all that going. How do we then connect? I mean, we sort of touched on the understanding where your customers go and selecting those couple of different elements, maybe working with those. What are some of the things we should be looking for in that space of understanding what are the right channels to actually use to communicate with my customers?
Okay, well look, that will depend enormously depending on the business. A small local trade business, their marketing focus might be the local newspaper, which still works well, and it might be letterbox dropping when they're in the area. Even those small local businesses though these days should have a website, because 90% of Australians, when they've got a need, they will jump on the web, and particularly their mobile devices. So even a small business needs a website.
A website or web presence?
Well, probably a web presence, but the problem with the social media I see is that word social. People, it's not generally a great sales channel. It's an engagement channel. It's a way of engaging with your audience. But it's not the conversion rate is not that great. Generally, the website is your sales channel, and the social media is your engagement channel, where you build an audience to come through to your sales channel as a website. And when you think about it, even a tradesperson, you need a tradesperson, you will jump on something, you want to be able to easily find them, find a phone number, click on that phone number and speak to somebody very quickly. And with social media, the opportunity to do that isn't there. So it's that immediacy of response that you actually need. So it'll depend on the business. So I'd say for the vast majority of businesses, a website is needed. And yet, as we know, less than 50% of Australian businesses have a website. And you look at that versus the opportunity and say, well, if 90% of people are searching on the web and only 50% of businesses are out there on the web, doesn't that say there's a massive opportunity there for small businesses?
That all of those people that haven't got a website are missing out on it.
Yes, they are. They're missing out on it. They're missing out on it. And particularly with the younger generation, the younger generation now, anyone below 30, anytime they're looking to purchase anything, they go on the web. They not only do that, they look at reviews. They go to a cafe or a restaurant. Before they go there, they will look at it on the web, but then they check out the reviews, because that's the world they've grown up in. And if you're a business and you're not out there and you're not doing that, you're missing an enormous opportunity to connect with potential customers.
Interesting. So let's assume that our customers are on nearly all of us are in social media in some sort of format and everything else like that. Are there any sort of generic type rules that you would suggest that there are certain social media channels more suited to certain types of businesses?
Absolutely. For example, if you're targeting the professional services sector, you really need to be on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is a fantastic platform. It's a great engagement, has a good engagement level, and these days you can actually blog on LinkedIn. Okay. So it's a great way to get out and get your message out, get your thoughts out, and I know a number of businesses have started doing that, and they're getting good results out of it. So LinkedIn is great for the professional services sector. Anything pretty much white collar, that's where you need to be. Facebook. Facebook is popular, and generally these days, if your target audience is probably 40 plus these days, sure, young kids use it, but unfortunately when mum and dad started to go onto Facebook, the kids went elsewhere. They went to Tumblr and places like that. Okay. So, and Instagram. Yeah. So, so they, Facebook for people 40 plus, that's where I'd be, particularly, again, probably female. Again, more of a weighting female. If you sell a visual product, things like Instagram, if you're targeting, again, probably females up to about age 30. And the sleeper in Australia is Pinterest. You know, Pinterest for females 30 plus. Although men are starting to get on it more and more. In America, it's enormous in terms of its driving traffic to e-commerce sites. Pinterest is enormous. The advantage it has over Instagram is each pin that you put up there, you can have a link to your website. Okay. And and the time spent on Pinterest, on average, is 14 minutes. Yeah. Facebook 3 minutes. Wow. So it's got a much higher engagement factor. Okay.
And I've also heard a stat that they've got probably the highest sales conversion rate of all of the channels.
They have. They've got the highest conversion rate for that sort of females 30 plus. Yeah. Really strong in fashion, accessories, travel, homewares, food. Yeah. All those sort of things. But you do need good images to put up there. Okay. But again, most businesses who are active on it don't have their price on the pin, and they don't have a link to their website. Sure. So you're missing out enormously, and it's very easy on Pinterest to do that.
Okay, great. So if I'm driving traffic back to my website, I mean, one of the fundamental things about a website, it puts you in a global space. But I mean, one of the realities of websites is that I can very easily end up on page 1,768,344 and never get found. Yes. How as a local type business, how can I get up on the front page without having to pay, a lot of these sort of SEO gurus who are going to charge me $500 a month to get me on page one? Well,
and even more. And I had one client I worked with that she'd been paying over $1,000 a month. Wow. And she was on about page 6. Yeah. Okay, so. The key with web marketing is to understand it, and probably come to one of our courses. Would be a good first step, where we teach practical marketing and practical search engine optimization. Yeah. And look, it's not rocket science. Yeah. It is actually quite simple when you get beyond the terminology. Yes. And as you know, in the courses we run, we use a few tools and show people how to use it to make it easy. Yeah. And if someone my age can learn it, and your age, anybody can learn it. Yep. It isn't that hard. The key is just to learn about it. Yep. Once you know about it, the other thing is you need to be active on the web. You can't just put up a website and forget about it. Google only rewards sites that are updated on a regular basis. Yep. So again, a blog is a great way of doing that on a website. Sure. And it's also a great way of business owners being able to demonstrate their expertise by having a blog and running a blog, and people get to understand who you are, what your knowledge is like, and they think, well, hang on, this is a person I want to deal with.
So if I'm not the writer and a lot of people are not writers,
they're not.
And don't feel comfortable about blogs and things like that. What's sort of some of the other tools that they could use to keep that engagement going up?
Well, if you're not a writer, one of the things you can do, you can get someone to write it for you.
Absolutely.
And there are many options out there, and they're not that expensive. And a lot of business owners, as you say, don't like writing or haven't got the time to do it.
Yeah.
Although if you learn the process we teach, it doesn't take that long.
Sure.
But again, it might be I'm better off investing that time out there engaging with my clients than sitting down trying to write a whole lot of content. You can engage someone for a pretty low cost to write it for you.
Yeah.
And that sort of works with a lot of things I'm seeing in business today. More and more businesses are engaging people to do the stuff that they're not good at.
Yeah.
The bookkeeper, the admin person,
Yeah.
the person who sits in the background and does the stuff that frees you up so that you can focus on what you're really good at.
And even though a lot of people see that as an expense, it's actually not, because
not.
particularly when you look at the opportunity cost.
It is.
I know I did an exercise for myself on a bookkeeper where I was spending about 3 hours to do my books.
Yes.
And I was charging, when I was doing private coaching, I don't know, $150 an hour, so $450 for that time. And the bookkeeper for $50 for 1 hour of their work could actually do the 3 hours of work stuff. In other words, I was paying $400 for the privilege of doing it myself.
You are, and that's what you've got to look at, that opportunity cost. It's really important. Unfortunately, in the effort to save money, we can shoot ourselves in the foot. And look, social media is another area that a lot of business owners don't have the interest or time to do, and you can engage people to do that for you. And it's not expensive to do that. And for social media to work for you, you really do, particularly Facebook, you need to be active. You need to be posting at least daily. At least daily, if you want to engage your audience and keep your audience and grow your audience. And for many small business owners, that is something they just don't have the time to do. So you get someone with the skills and let them do it.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things, is, as you know, and we talk about in the workshops, is that we need to change the mindset about social media as well. It's not social media is something extra that we have to do.
No.
It really needs to become considered as part of the actual marketing activity. So instead of me sitting down and writing a brochure, I should be probably putting it up in social media instead. So it's about determining what your marketing strategies and directions and outlets are, and considering that as part of your marketing activity.
Yes, it's part of your business, and it's a bit like, look at it like it's a salesperson. That you've got a role as a salesperson online. And so that if you want returns, you've got to put the effort in. Now, it's either you put the effort in or someone does it for you. But you don't get someone to do it for you until you understand how it works, because otherwise you can pay a lot of money and get no results.
Exactly. Just want to touch, Bruce, before we wrap up, just on the last sort of, which is I see is probably the number one marketing weapon in any business arsenal, and that is customer service.
Absolutely.
And understanding how customer service impacts every single element of a business.
It does.
I'll give you an example. I rang somebody who's got a small business just recently, and I got the phone and it was like, "Oh, hello, this is Fred. You know what to do. Just leave a message." If you're in a business and that's your business phone, obviously it sends a really bad message to me, the potential client. What are some of the things in customer service from your own experience? Can you sort of maybe give to the audience, visual and audio audience, to help them sort of think about a little bit more about what customer service really means and what the impacts of that are?
Customer service, we often have too narrow a focus on customer service. We think customer service is just the face-to-face contact, but customer service is every way you come in contact with that customer. And looking at every way and thinking about it and saying, is this giving the customer a great experience? Not a good experience, a great experience. Because if you want your customers to come back and you want them to tell other people, you've got to exceed their expectations. If you don't exceed their expectations, you've got a 60% chance they're not going to come back again. So you've got to exceed, and you've got to look and say, how can I wow the customers? One of my favourite authors is an Australian author, Bernadette Jiwa. In one of her books, she said, the secret to successful marketing is to understand what your customers want and delight one customer at a time. And I think that is absolute true when it comes to marketing. Is looking at saying, how can I wow my customers?
Yeah.
Is what I'm doing giving good service, or is it wowing them?
Is there a danger in that wow factor, though, in terms of making it too big a wow, that becomes the new expectation?
Well, what's wrong with a great expectation?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's wrong with a great expectation? Because if you're giving exceptional service and wowing the customer, that customer, you're setting a high standard. Sure, you have to maintain that standard, but that customer's going to be delighted.
Yeah.
And that customer is going to share that story with another person and another person and another person. And your marketing investment in terms of dollars will go down because you'll have customers just walking in the door because they've been referred by delighted customers.
Yeah. But it's also not just the business owner, is it? It's got to do it. It's in every aspect.
Every aspect.
It's about training the staff. It's about ensuring that your suppliers, you're working with them so that they are enabling you to give that wow factor service and everything else. Make sure you've got the stuff on time, or the delivery service, the way you package the parcels, how the phones are answered, the consistencies, I guess, across all of the various communication points of your business, whether that's websites, advertising, whatever it is. It's all got to be
consistent.
Consistent,
And that comes down to building systems. Having standards. What are your standards? And then what are your systems? And working to it. Love them or hate them, McDonald's do that wonderfully well.
Yes.
They've built systems, you get a very consistent experience. You mightn't like the experience, but it's it's made them massively successful.
Yes.
And small businesses can systemise their business and their great practices just as easily as can a corporate like McDonald's. McDonald's was a small business at one stage.
Yes.
The genius of Ray Kroc was find out what works, systemise it.
Yeah.
And everyone can do that.
And then expand from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bruce Hall, thank you very much for spending some time talking some marketing, and we trust the viewers and listeners have actually got something beneficial out of it.
My absolute pleasure.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.